Welcome to the Stay Clean and Safe podcast, created with the financial support of the European Union. Here we share ideas, tips, and stories that will help us build healthy, safe, and clean communities together. Let's get started.
Hello, welcome to our podcast. Today we are talking about a topic that affects almost every young person: how to keep up with school, work, family, friends, and still have time for yourself. Joining us today is Leila, who is a professional in the field of work-life balance. Welcome, Leila.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leila. I'm a lecturer and assistant professor at the Faculty of Organizational Studies in Novo Mesto. I would say that balance, when we talk about it, is a very interesting topic.
To begin with, we often feel that we don't have enough time for ourselves. Do you think that most young people face this problem?
Absolutely everyone, not just young people, but really everyone, older employees. And from my own experience, I can say that this is a topic that really needs to be addressed, and my discussion of it will never be complete. We all face it, and if we look at young people, most of them are under a lot of pressure, and I don't really know where they stand.
Before we move on, I would like to ask you, what does work-life balance actually mean?
For most people, it is really about that 50-50. Right now, I have time for work, and right now, I also have time for my family, for friends, for hobbies, for activities. It's about having time, which means that you somehow find that you have work, you have school, you have obligations, but you also have this time for yourself, whether it's 70-30 or sometimes 30-70, because it means we put our obligations aside and we feel really good. But it's very important that we feel that balance or well-being.
Why do you think this balance is so easily disrupted in young people?
Because of society, because of pressure, because of the environment, and also because of personality. There are many young people who are very ambitious, perfectionists too. And from my own experience, I can say that this is really disrupts the balance of well-being. Well-being when they are unable to find the balance between work and private life. So there are a lot of factors for young people, I would say, and the environment and family and pressures and social media and everything else, which is a lot of phone use, and it also takes a lot of time. If you're active on some social network, and mostly young people just limit themselves or different videos. This takes a lot of time. If you want quality, of course, don't have any free time for themselves besides this.
The two of us have noticed that they are often available even when they should be starting work. Is this an alarm?
Of course, you know, I would say that it is already an alarm if you set it on your phone, email, or Gmail, Outlook, and those things. But if you have a habit of checking your emails or replying to them during the weekend, after work, after school, that's already an alarm. The first alarm is if you're already thinking about setting up Outlook or Gmail. This means that you find yourself really technological or technical, digital, I don't know, whether it's a laptop or a tablet, and you stick to it and work on it your mobile and leave it at that. That's just how I see it.
What are some other signs that we are losing our balance?
Fatigue. In addition to fatigue, low energy or loss of energy, a complete loss of interest in friends and socializing, avoiding responsibilities. There are many who literally avoid work, but they literally freeze because they no longer have the strength to think, to act, because this is a consequence of precarious employment. So, looking at it from this perspective, even our physical health has declined and our immune system is already compromised. So, it's all part of seeing what the signs are, and most importantly, well being. If we feel something here, we say it's intuition, psychology. If we feel here that something is wrong, then something is really wrong.
What can we, for example, young people do today to improve our balance?
There's a lot in the world. That's what I would say. Young people should set a very good schedule for themselves. Regardless of their obligations, whether it's a job, school, or studies, they should set a schedule that they are aware of and follow. And good organization really helps in this fight against burnout because in psychology, we call it burnout. So there are a lot of young people today who suffer from this, but also older people, those in middle age. But somehow these are generations that have already learned, that this is normal. This is my job. I would really advise something that is very important for young people, that you set boundaries. Because I always say, boundaries are not set for others. You are not being rude or disrespectful. You are setting boundaries for yourself. And when someone is able to set boundaries, that person is already very stable and has already developed good mental hygiene. Because it is very important for a new young person who is just starting to shape themselves for this job for work. So, setting boundaries for yourself is the best advice I have ever received, and I would also pass it on to others.
Young people also have problems with phones, sometimes finding it difficult to disconnect. How can we help ourselves here?
There are countless studies and countless research projects on phone use. I would say that there is also a lot of advice out here today. You have to decide for yourself and choose for yourself what and how to use your phone. If you look, there are so many functions and applications available today that turn off your phone after 2 hours of use or block certain applications or social networks. It's all one way, if you want to or if you don't. By the way, I'm talking about addiction now. Many young people, but also other people, are already addicted to it and are somehow struggling to face it, to deal with this problem. Mobile phones are indeed a problem, but they could also be a solution. For example, because we have a large database and a lot of information, we can get it very quickly. It all depends on the individual.
Do you think short breaks are really important for productivity?
I would say, based on my own experience, I've tried that. I study for 15 minutes or work for 15 minutes. As a young person and a teenager and a young adult, but I have a 5 minute break. In my case, it didn't turn out that way. I would say that something is more useful and effective. So what turned out that I set myself a goal. I work for an hour, then I take 5 to 10 minute break and I turn off my computer, mobile phone and everything. I really do that because I want those 10 minutes of quiet. But for those 60 minutes, I work hard or study or do my job. So breaks are very important. You just have to find your rhythm, whether that's every 15 minutes or every 25 or 30. Experts, especially in medicine and clinical psychology, recommend taking a break every 45 minutes because concentration levels drop. So after 45 minutes, if you can hold out, take a break. Or if it's easier for you, I would say that there is no need to overthink it. If you can take that break, then really enjoy it. Or if you have 15 minutes of work, then you have really accomplished something. Then it doesn't matter how much you work or how long your break is. It depends on the individual again.
There is also a lot of talk about burnout, but is this also present in young people?
Enormously. As a transactional analysis therapist, I have conducted many, many hours of therapy with young people who work in their own companies, quiet startups or just students, with some kind of student work. Burnout is huge because, as we said, we really live in a very fast paced world. We live fast lives. If we look at the different components and aspects of our lives, I would say that we are really faced with different types of burnout, from total burnout to pure careless burnout. But burnout is very, very prevalent among young people.
What should we do if we notice that we are on the path to burnout?
I would say that if you notice that you're on the path to burnout and this is already an alarm bell, then with the greatest desire and good intentions, I would say immediately go to the doctor. Not just to get medication, but something else. But really so that they can refer to you the mental health center, which is now also in our health center. There, you can talk to a counselor and a youth counselor and a social counselor and a psychologist and a clinical psychologist. They have a wide range of professionals. It is very important, and also from other places in Slovenia, of course, go and see. It is very important who you talk to first. Then the process follows, but it is very important. It is already 50% of success to be aware that you are in the path to burnout.
Do you think that young people are already changing the culture of work and setting different boundaries?
Absolutely. We now have two very contradictory things. We have young people who are burned out, but we also have young people who know how to stand up for themselves. And then they ask me, young people always ask me, why do I have to do it this way? If a former employee did it this way in my job, I'm not going to do it this way because that's not my way of working. So, this is already an awareness of what well being at work means and why it is so important. And that well being at work naturally affects well being in your personal life. You cannot separate those things. They always say that you have to separate your professional life from your private or business life, but that's not true because everything always affects us. We are emotional beings.
Finally, and if you could give young people just one piece of advice, what would it be?
Stand up for yourself and set boundaries. Anywhere, anytime. That's it.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you also to everyone who is listening. See you next time.
Of course. Thank you for listening to Stay Clean and Safe, a project funded by the European Union. Remember, small steps lead to big changes in keeping the world clean and safe. Be honest and be safe.